and shit like
and
that.
dude, when it first starts, you're like, these are the oldest college students in the world. And then they're like, oh, well, they're getting their PhD. And you're like, well, okay, maybe they're...
Yeah, Dennis Dunn says something about that shit. He's like, oh, yeah, I want to be a millionaire by 40. You know?
Wang. And I did not know his name was Walter till the end of the movie.
Right.
Like, I just kept calling him Wang. I mean, I know his name's Dennis Dunn.
But every time you see him, you're like, it's fucking Wang.
Dennis Dunn.
Again, from Big Trouble in Little China.
Because
we should mention that the priest that's in this that we're talking about is the psychologist from Halloween.
From Michael Myers.
Yeah. So all characters that have worked with John Carpenter before, which is kind of interesting.
That is really
Pure evil.
Well, if you work with somebody and it goes well, you usually feel comfortable working with them.
You don't make Prince of Darkness.
Yeah. Donald Pleasance was in a lot of stuff, but then Halloween was the one. It was the Obi-Wan syndrome kind of deal.
It's just
iconic.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan had that shit and he didn't like it, and then Donald Pleasance I don't think really liked Loomis that much until the end, of course, just like everybody else is like, oh, it's actually a pretty decent character.
You're not saying Obi-Wan's character
No, I'm just saying the same kind of it was a resurgence because it was such a big movie. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that one, Halloween did that for him, and I think he worked with him for 3 movies. He worked with most people for 3 movies, except for one guy that was in this movie that he worked with for about 5 more movies.
Okay.
We'll talk about him
Who's
in a little while.
Asian descent guy with the lazy eye, older guy?
Yeah, that was Shin. Yeah, Victor Wong.
Actually, Victor Wong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
No, he's awesome.
Yeah, and in this movie, he was the smartest dude in the whole room. He was literally, everybody was looking to him for everything. But yet he put together the whole deal.
Right.
When you read the synopsis of this movie, you're like, oh, a priest is poking around in a basement and they find something in a jar. You're like, what the fuck? This doesn't have nothing to do with the movie.
It's a pickle.
Yeah. It was just kind of fucking weird. But that's, and still the movie doesn't take off whenever they assemble the crew either, you know, because they're all standing outside. They're like, oh, what do we got to do? You know, they're alluding to things like the debate between the theologian and then the scientist, you know, like they did public television before. So they think it was that. Okay. As they see the nun, and then they have all their names on the door.
Right.
But that's when Wang freaks out and he's like, man, I got serious fucking plans. It's like, whoa. His overacting in this one was fucking awesome. Yeah. It was fucking great.
It was needed, honestly, for this movie.
He was, because there were so many skeptics throughout the whole movie, and he was one of the biggest skeptics until one part.
Yeah, right. He's locked to the closet.
Yes. So they get to the part where Donald Pleasance and Victor Wong are getting together. So his name is Barack, right?
Before we get to that, I do want to... No, maybe actually this is maybe the same part where he talks about the guardian priest.
Yes, where he's talking about the Order of Sleep.
Yeah.
Now that's fucking one of the coolest goddamn names for something in the fucking world.
The Guardian Priest. I was like, dude, I think I played this character in a D&D game when I was 12.
It's fucking so awesome. And then he's talking about how the priest woke up every day, would go out every couple of weeks to get food, but he would go down to that basement every day.
And you could tell when you got down there because there's like all those crosses and candles. Like somebody put some effort in that bitch.
Who the fuck lights all those candles at once, you know?
Who replaces them?
Right.
Somebody with the ooze.
Yeah. One dude's like, every time one goes, he lights it and lets it burn a little bit so he can actually stick it down so it won't fucking move. But there's candles everywhere. The basement is like 3 times as big as the goddamn church. For real. It's huge.
It is huge.
It's fucking massive. I mean, of course, you know, it was all different kind of sets and shit like that. But the way that it moves down and then it fucking scrolls all the way through and they get to the big hall and shit like that.
Right.
And the fucking, that was the coolest fucking effect of the whole movie was the jar.
Oh, yeah. That was all you needed to do though, really. Because everything else was just character.
Yeah. And they're talking about it in
not developed character, but you know, interaction.
They're kind of bringing them together. And then whenever they're looking at the book, and he's like, "Oh, you could tell that they've written over this several times in different languages, and they use different numbers, but they did it very poorly." Which that's a crazy part because it's been updated.
Differential equations,
from
a 2,000-year-old book.
We haven't even invented that yet. And literally, I mean, that book. You see how big that book was, and then at one part, you see how far the one chick has gotten through it, and it's like 5 pages, and they got the gist of everything in 5 pages.
Oh, that's true. Like,
Truth.
do we need the rest of this
Yeah,
book?
exactly. Imagine what is left in that book.
Well,
and that's what's cool about the movie, too, is there's so much left.
Well, think about, like most of your older books of antiquity that would be the first part of their religion was always the first part of the book. And the last part of that book is generally like spells, incantations, or the rhetoric of that religion, depending on what it is. So there's a lot of that. So, I mean, maybe they did get the gist of it in the first 5 pages.
Yeah.
But maybe all the bad shit's right behind that.
Yeah, so like
That's, I think,
because
what
what
you're
else?
saying,
Because what else could they have told in the rest of that? But after 2,000 years of them keeping that secret, there was a lot of shit that they had to write in there and always update and always kind of figure out different things for it, which they didn't know anything about it. They were just passing the Order of Sleep was just passing that down throughout those 2,000 years, suppressing that information.
Don't they
Sounds like
say-
religions I know.
But don't they say at one point that all of the Order of the Sleep got that dream?
Yes, everybody that was
they
in close
did know
proximity.
something was going on.
Yeah, anybody in the close proximity that
Which
was
for 2,000 years was
Yeah.
the Order of Sleep.
the way I saw it. These new people were the new keepers.
No, absolutely.
Of the Order
that's
of
how
Sleep.
that's how I gathered it too.
yeah.
Because they were trying to figure things out. And
They hit that next
protect
level.
the world. you
Yeah.
know?
So that older priest was holding on to the old style. They had the new style. They finally caught up to figure it out what it was.
Right.
They already knew. And even home dude Loomis, he was like, he's freaking out the whole time, but
I
he's
know.
not losing his cool though.
No, he doesn't lose his cool, but he does talk about how priests were no, he didn't say the priests, but or like salesmen and selling, something that was other than the truth
Yes.
just for their own end.
Yeah.
And he goes
Snake
through
oil.
that whole big, speech or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're right. He doesn't flip out.
He doesn't freak out because that could be an end to everything that he is.
Exactly.
But he doesn't flip out because it does kind of fit, and they both kind of work it out together.
Right.
At some point too, we're like, okay, well, maybe this is the way it should have been, the whole time. Which that's the crazy part too, because Jesus Christ, I mean, the whole 2,000 years is suppressing the information that Jesus was an alien.
Right. Which is
Fucking
what you find out.
crazy.
Surprise! Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert!
Now, there's going
Fucking
to be
crazy
spoiler alert
concept.
through this whole episode.
Yeah.
This movie is old.
1987,
Yeah,
right?
So 31 years old.
Jesus, that makes me old.
It's as old as Mitch.
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah, Mitch is old, we know.
Yeah.
Young Mitchadiah.
Young old Mitchadiah.
That is just the gathering of the people.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because none of them know what the hell's going on.
No.
Even when they're there. Like, they're setting stuff up and they still don't know what's
They're
going
all
on.
figuring it out at the same time together.
Right. Which is kind of cool. I like
Yeah.
that. I like the idea of that. Again,
A group effort.
yeah. Again, I think it could be done a lot smoother. You could do a
Yeah.
little more character development in the beginning. So
I mean,
that
they
care.
tried. It just didn't really
I
progress.
didn't care about Stash because I thought he was a
Nobody.
creeper who had game
Right.
because he bagged that redhead pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who the main character was until the very end, and they still don't really know.
Yeah, who was the main person? Yeah,
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 there wasn't
exactly.
one.
And I don't think there was, and I think that's the idea: is you're bringing that group
Almost
together,
like
and
you
that
do.
group is what you're.
Continuing it.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody
they
else
spread
is going to
the-
keep that because what are they going to do with the information after it's all done?
Right.
See?
Kind of like the thing that, you didn't know. I mean, you knew Mac was the main dude.
Right.
Kurt Russell's the main dude because he's Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Right.
And he has that hat, that fucking hat.
Hey there, Pilgrim. No, just kidding.
But same idea. You have that group, and there's a lot of similarities
Yeah.
between these two movies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Something that can be anyone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of a deal, and
Take
then it's
over,
that same kind of isolation and
Low
one
budget
picking
isolation.
them off.
And these, whenever they turned into, whatever they turned into, the zombies, I guess you
Yeah.
could refer to them as
Yeah.
zombies.
Fair enough.
They each had their own kind of personalities too, which is kind of crazy. Some of them were the same, stoic, kind of deal. But then that, like the one black guy,
Where I was laughing and then sad and then happy.
then
And
singing and shit like that, singing Amazing Grace while he's carrying
he
the
was
He was
fucking
the
chair.
creepiest one by
Yeah,
far.
and then he cuts his own throat with a fucking piece of wood.
And then he can't talk later, and he's looking like he's sad, like he almost came back.
But he did, yeah, and
Oh,
he's
he did?
laughing. He's like,
No. Like at the very end, he starts looking like, oh my god, I'm in pain. And
Yeah,
I'm
well,
crying.
like he was sad,
like
and
he was
happy.
coming back to reality.
But didn't he do something with the mirror right before that?
yeah, he was staring at the mirror. Yeah,
So I
the
think
whole
that
time.
he
and
was
the mirror.
he was
I didn't put put that together, but
Like-
you're right. He
Yeah.
did.
So kind of back up for everybody else.
Yeah.
Because we skipped all the hell over this movie. But yeah, so nobody knows what's going on. And then what do we find out? We find out that Jesus was an alien, right? We found that out. Eventually, we find out that this ooze, this green stuff, is becoming its own creature.
Yeah, and it's the son of
It's
the anti-god.
self-organizing. The son of the anti-god. That gets a little in-depth right there. And I did like that part where, Wang's like, if there's,
If there's God, then there's got to be there's
When-
particles, there's antiparticles.
anti-particles, right.
So that's the science behind it, which makes it scary because it's not a dude in a rubber suit. God knows what the fuck that shit really is.
See what you did there?
Yeah, exactly. And that's another one of those things with Carpenter. He was trying to rewrite it.
Well, and wasn't there a piece where he says, "Was our God in the mirror? Like,
Yeah,
was it our
yeah.
God, or were we worshiping?"
Is our God the bad God, basically?
right.
Yeah, and the anti-God is the one that should rightfully be here.
Right.
And then they had,
But we find that not to be true later on because he's real scary looking.
yeah,
Or at least his hand is.
yeah, his hand is.
It's a common mistake though, because you usually think God, so the opposite must be like Satan. But it's actually been a typo for centuries and centuries. It's Santa. Just want you to say.
That's amazing because I always had thought it was Stan.
That's what he goes by when he's around his friends.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So dog.
They both wear red.
Yeah. Damn it, Stan.
Sneak
But
out of your fucking house, whatever.
That's see, the movie doesn't really start really getting its guts until about 30-40 minutes into it.
And that's when we see the whole glasses is getting all fucked up by some ooze there.
It pees on her, and she's
then
like,
that's and of course that's when we find out Satan makes everything better because she never wears glasses again. In the
Yeah.
movie.
That's very true.
he healed her. They do use two instances of the really slow, like, somebody's beside me, isn't there? They use it twice.
And they use the out of focus.
Yes.
Like that person's out of focus in the back and then coming in, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And the one dude
For
was like-
Back
1980.
then, especially, but
Yeah.
now it's
Yeah.
been abused.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't really notice the liquids on the ceiling because it's dripping upside down up there.
And
But we
reversed
haven't
it,
even
though?
really even touched on the homeless people.
Oh.
So let's even go back further than that because the one thing
We're going to Tarantino this shit right on back. All right.
Let's
the
rewind.
the way that the bugs work, right?
Yeah.
Because there's several scenes with different bugs. One really prevalent scene of bugs.
Bugs.
Yeah. And, I mean, one really big one. I mean, they allude to all these bugs going around, and then they show the homeless lady.
Right.
That's as far as I really wanted to go
that's
back, is they show the
The
homeless
maggots
lady.
in her cup.
Yep.
Yes. And then they show
she-
all the homeless people standing in a perfect fucking row in weird spots and shit like that. It's like, who are they talking to? Because they're looking all at the sun.
Right.
They're kind of looking in that
That
direction
sun
for it.
with the moon over it or whatever that is.
Correct.
That little crescent.
And you see the old lady first, and then you see when Reverend Loomis is coming in. You see her again, or Father Loomis, and you see her again, and she's got that fucking weird ass cup full of weird maggots and shit. And he's like, ugh.
Oh, it looks disgusting.
And then he even looks at his hand. He's like, ugh, gross.
So what
you.
this makes me think is that demons are, I don't know, somehow aligned, somehow talk with bugs. Demons,
Yeah.
so Ant-Man's a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
a demon.
they even talk
That's why
about
he beat his wife in the comics.
Oh.
yeah, in
He
the comic
totally
books,
did.
yeah,
Hank
yeah.
Pym just slapped that bitch around.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Not cool.
Yeah. And then got his ass kicked by Captain America.
He's like, you don't do that.
America!
Not American boys. No.
Captain Dixie knocked that bitch right the fuck out.
Captain Dixie Lamb.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect.
Seriously.
Let's pitch that comic. Marvel, if you want that, just hit us up on
Captain
the
Dixie,
Instagrams and the Twitters.
This is the 3-year update. We still haven't heard from Marvel. It's like-
Time capsules.
we used that. What was it called? What was the particle in the thing that goes faster than light?
The Tachyon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We used that. To
They
tell
explained
ourselves
it,
how
Mitch.
it goes 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. We just used tachyons
Yep.
Boom.
to show us a really bad video clip.
Science drop.
It looks like it was a VHS that my dad had in the 80s.
Well, that's another thing too, that they start in the middle when everything starts taking off. They start showing those flashbacks.
Right.
Back to the homeless people too. And the fucking Alice Cooper is a homeless guy.
Yep.
What? No way.
And
Not Alice Cooper.
And through a portion of this movie, you can actually hear his song playing.
Yeah.
While he's in the scene.
And it's the Prince of Darkness song.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, the homeless people, I guess, because they do make mention of feeling the power.
Right.
Of that. So maybe the power was reaching out a little bit further at first to draw people in.
I think it definitely was. And because he even makes a statement that